In Putin makes major Trump announcement, media hates this, by Mark Pervulovic for Christian News Alerts. The media will have a lot to talk about in light of the recent conversation between these two world leaders. Russian President Vladimir Putin scheduled a call with President Trump Tuesday to speak directly about jump-starting diplomatic efforts to solve the Syrian civil war, according to The Hill. Just as a meeting between Putin and Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad in Sochi concluded, the Russian president reached out to his American counterpart in an effort to reach a peaceful solution in the civil war that has ravaged that war-torn country. Tomorrow I'm speaking with the U.S. President Donald Trump, Putin said during their Monday meeting. According to a statement from the Kremlin, he added, "I believe that terrorism is a global problem and that as for our efforts against the terrorists in Syria, this military operation is nearing completion indeed." The last known conversation between Trump and Mr. Putin occurred earlier this month during an economic summit in Vietnam, where, among other things, the two discussed the North Korean situation. The Russian leader also said he would be speaking with other leaders in the region, including Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, as well as the Turkish and Iranian presidents as well. How could you remember that name? Bloomberg reports that Mr. Trump's conversation with Vladimir Putin lasted for an hour and was one of where both sides expressed satisfaction with the conversation that was held, which was businesslike and informative, according to a separate statement from the Kremlin. A White House press release echoed similar sentiments, saying that the two discussed the need to revive UN negotiations and the Geneva process to peacefully resolve the Syrian civil war, end the humanitarian crisis, allow displaced Syrians to return home, and ensure the stability of a unified Syria free of malign intervention and terrorist safe havens. Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin also agreed on the importance of fighting terrorism together and discussed additional ways to corroborate in future anti-terrorism efforts. They also touched upon implementing a lasting peace in Ukraine, as well as pressuring North Korea to stop its nuclear program, something that the two leaders have spoken about before. Politico reported that these meetings come only days after Syrian troops and allied forces captured the town of Bukamal, the last major inhabited area held by ISIS forces in the country. With the loss of this strategic stronghold, remnants of the extremist group's forces are now dispersed in villages and small towns across the desert. Russian-American relations have been strained in recent years, particularly due to the mainstream media's narrative of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Despite the efforts of Special Counsel Robert Mueller to find any meaningful evidence that this took place, such claims remain completely unverified. Project Veritas reported that an undercover journalist caught CNN producer John Bonifield admitting, "I haven't seen any good enough evidence to show that the president committed a crime." He also admitted that the Russian collusion narrative was good for ratings and that President Trump was justified in calling it an unfair witch hunt. As the two world leaders continue to have normal diplomatic relations, the mainstream media will undoubtedly try its best to exaggerate the implications of this conversation. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even when Trump put sanctions on, it wasn't Trump's idea. You know, they were, the corruption in the government, that's who's pushing him. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.